that's,
He left a reading somewhere. I remember seeing it in the office. I will go look again and see if I can find it.
Thank you, Carol. Beautiful as always. Hi, I'm Steve Nessheim. I'm going to be your coordinator today, and I want to welcome you to All Souls. Whether this is your first time here or you're a long-time member, you are welcome here. Yet, whatever faith you've known or not known, you are welcome here. Whatever questions you have, you are welcome here. Whoever you love, you are welcome here. Yet, whatever the color of your skin, your hair, or even your toenails, you're welcome here. Yes, it's wherever you were born, whatever your legal status is, you are welcome here. Yes. We have a few announcements today. Please check your bulletin, and there's a handful of things listed. In addition, yes, last week we did have our annual meeting. If you would like a copy of the report, they are in the foyer in the back, like on the side table. And feel free to pick up one. We also have a petition downstairs. In South Dakota, we pay for our government through sales tax and property tax. And earlier this year, the legislative shifted more of the burden to sales tax, which is the most regressive type of tax there is. We have a petition down there or trying to reverse that. So if that's something that speaks to you, please sign that. It's also it's next Saturday, right? Yes, Saturday the 20th. We're gonna have a speaker here, who's going to show us some of the wildlife that we have in our property and describe it. Should be an interesting experience. We also want to hand out some flyers to the neighborhood and invite people. So if you want to help hand out flyers, there's a sign-up sheet also in the back, and then there's a group of the bulletin flyers. They look like this. Yes, you can just grab one, and it's with Professor David O'Hare. Yes. Are there any other announcements that I have missed? Apparently not, so we will now go to our prelude. Thank you. We're not going to have our chalice reading. It's number 437. I will read the plain text, and you guys can join me with italicized. Yes. 437 or 436. I'm sorry. No, 437. It is 437. I was confusing myself. Let us worship. Let us worship with our eyes, our ears, and our fingertips. We feed our eyes upon the mystery and revelations of the faces of our brothers and sisters. We seek to understand the shyness behind arrogance, the fear behind pride, the tenderness behind clumsy strength, the anguish behind cruelty. Let us not worship, not in bowing down, not with closed eyes and stopped ears. Life comes with singing and laughter, with tears and confiding, with a rising wave too great to be held in the mind and heart and body to those who have fallen in love with life. Yes. Now we're gonna have a story for all ages. So any kids who want to come up, and if not, well, we'll. Oh, it's you're right. I am skipping way ahead. It's 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 131. Thank you guys for keeping me honest because okay, we'll try this again. Now we'll do the story for all ages. Nope. What am I? Didn't we just do 570? Okay, I need more caffeine. Well, I can't say. I'm excited about the story. Yeah, and it's actually kind of a depressing one, but that's okay. Okay, 576 is our new reading, and again, I'll read the standard text, and you can read the italics. If recognizing the independence of all life, we strive to build community, the strength we gather will be our salvation. If you're black and I am white, if you are female and I am male, if you are older and I am younger, if you are progressive and I am conservative, If you are straight and I am gay, if you are Christian and I am Jewish, we join in spirits as brothers and sisters. The pain of our loneliness will be lessened, and that does not matter. Triple checking my notes now. I do believe now we're at the story of all ages. Yes, and one of the things I love about this community is it's so full of grace, and and I like that. All right, can everyone hear me now? All right, yes, yes, and we always got one comedian in the crowd. Usually it's me, but today is Scott. Yes, yes. The book is called "I Dream of Peace," and this book, all the pictures were done by little kids. Yes, yes. Now we live in a place where we have lots. We currently have peace, but some places they have had war. And this was pictures drawn by kids during a war in a place in Europe called Yugoslavia. That's a big word, isn't it? Yes, 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 yes. So they're dreaming of peace. And I just wanted to show some of these photos. Sometimes it can be scary because, life sometimes is scary, isn't it? Yes, yes. Yes, that's. Can you imagine growing up when this is what you saw outside your window? Yes, and you could see houses on fire. Yes, yes, and smoke. Yes, yes, and again, and these were all drawn on by children. Yes, yes. Now, aren't you glad we don't live where there's war going on right now? You like that? Yes, yes, yes. And you can see he's crying. Yes. And it's playground equipment, but they're worried about being bombed. Their house is on fire. Yeah, it's people are leaving because they're having to go away from their homes to be safe and keep their families safe. Again, a picture of their village. Yeah, it's like I said, this is a good story for all ages. Yes. And sometimes they have nightmares. Do you ever have nightmares? Oh, well, you're a brave little boy who doesn't have nightmares. I used to have nightmares when I was a little kid, and sometimes I still do. But these kids, would have nightmares about what they saw and what they experienced. Yes. And, this war is now over, but there's other wars going on right now. There's a war going on in Ukraine. There's a war going on.
That's a thing that shoots things.
I think that's a tank. Yeah. Yeah. Can you imagine and seeing tanks going through your schoolyard? No. That's your playground. Yes. And here's a picture of his house before the war, and afterwards. What happened to the house?
Bro.
Yeah, it broke. The windows are all broken. There's a big hole inside the wall. That'd be scary to have that happen to your house, wouldn't it?
And the roof's broke off.
Yeah, the roof's broken off too. So if it rained or snowed, it would go right inside the roof. Yeah. Yeah, but here, it's, it's, is a bird flying across, and he's dreaming of peace. It's, and he wrote something, but it's in Yugoslavia, so I have no idea what it says. But again, they're dreaming of peace, and not war. And here are some of the kids that were affected. So, it's kind of a sad story today. Not our typical one. But, I just want you to think about how lucky we are that we have of a peace. And also, to try to aid a division when we hear about things in the news, how it affects other kids. Yes, you guys have been a very good audience today. Yes, and now, we're gonna have funner things for you guys to do downstairs. Yeah. Spirit of love surrounds you everywhere, everywhere. Like I said, not our typical story, and I wanted to wait until the kids were gone before I read part of this. This is the picture here. A grenade landed in our shelter. We had to climb over dead bodies to get out. Meanwhile, the snipers kept shooting at us. My father was one of those wounded and taken away to a hospital. We have not seen him since, but I hope he's still alive, perhaps in one of the detention camps. I try not to talk about these things, but I get so upset I keep having nightmares about what happened. This was from a 13-year-old boy named Kermiz. So, again, when you hear about the war in Ukraine, the war in Iran, or wherever, this is what that means. It's so easy to get caught up in some of the other politics and forget about that. Yes. You guys are never going to have me back. I'm downer. But anyway, now we're going to do one of my favorite parts of the service, joys and concerns. This is a point where everyone has opportunity to come up and express as something that's bringing them joy or something that's bringing them concern. You can take a rock and put it in the water, and then it symbolizes the ripples going out in the community. And I will start. Hello? Hello? Yeah. Okay. I have a nice mica one, which reminds me of the Black Hills. My joy was I got to participate in the Pride Walk yesterday with several other members here. It was a lot of fun. We carried the banner, and like I said, it was just a lot of fun to see so many joyful people out and excitement in the community.
Good morning. My name's Eric. And To counter that story, I would like to put in a stone for promise, for new life. Yesterday, my wife and I went to a wedding of a young couple starting out the promise for the future. Last week, I spent a week with my son Gregory and his wife, who is 7 months along, the promise for the future. And so that's what I put the stone in for, is for the promise.
Ann Hefke, and to put a stone in for a great day yesterday at Pride and at the parade and the festival and parade. It was a lot of fun, but we got burned, but that's okay. Part of it. And I like to think about all the people in the concerns that I have. My friend Bonnie, who lives next door to me, she was with her sister, somehow she broke her wrist, broke a couple of bones. She can't have any surgery, but hopefully she's going to do well with it being in a temporary cast of hers. And so I'm hoping that she's going to find herself in a better spot. So thank you. What? The son.
Cindy's son.
And Jenny, and I have a joy for Jenny's, oh, and we need to pray for Cindy's son and hope that he's going to get better in time. He's been in the hospital with some congestions and stuff, so hopefully he's going to be out of the hospital by Monday. So that's what we're hoping and praying for. Thank you.
Yesterday in my front yard, 2 robins were talking, and I knew that there was some issue, probably a baby bird somewhere, and I didn't see it until yesterday evening. Nestled in the grass, very well camouflaged. And so that was a big concern because we have some cats that roam the neighborhood. And my joy is that I saw one of the parents feeding that baby bird this morning.
Hi, I'm Scott. I think I've had 2 things to talk about. One of them was my wife and I were beginning to have trouble talking to each other. We just were fading physically away from each other more and more. And Mom asked us if we were worried about something last Sunday at lunch. And Janet and I just dumped all our fears and anxiety and put them out on the table so we could see them. And we just realized we were overwhelmed. Both of us were. And just knowing that made things more copable. Things have gotten back, and we know we're under a lot of pressure, but we know it's there now. And I made a new friend who does woodworking, and he makes bowls and goblets and things like that with his lathe. And he just happened to get a new pickup and is wanting to sell his old. And he keeps things in meticulous condition. It's a 2001, but it barely even has any rust anywhere. He just fixes things. So he let me buy it from him for $3,500. Not a bad deal.
I just wanted to say I'm Janet, and I just wanted to say that things at Avera are getting better with our new electronic record system and billing system and all that stuff. So just say I'm happy that I'm starting to know what I'm doing. We're going into week 3 of it, so it's been a hard learning curve the last couple weeks, but they're starting to work the bugs out of the system, and I actually can get some work out the door, and it's very nice. I also wanted to say thank you. I've been kind of pressured as treasurer here, and I wanted to let you know that the pledges have come in, and we're up to like $55,000. So I really appreciate y'all for doing that. It takes a big burden off me worrying about whether we're going to make ends meet. So it looks like we're going to have a good year. Thank you very much.
Let's take a few moments to just have a silent reflection on the joys and concerns we heard and for the joys and concerns that we have not heard. And I'll put one final stone in for the unspoken ones. Okay, and now we're going to go to song 170, We Are Gentle, Angry People. Please stand if you so wish. Yes. Then, for our second reading, it's you get to listen to me. It's called Love's Power. At the end of a church meeting, a handful of people lingered in our conference room when someone relatively new to our congregation took a deep breath and a big risk, because he didn't know many of the people present. He began by expressing dismay about the rising fascism in our country, evident most troubling by the current assault on trans people and immigrants. What followed wasn't an intellectual conversation. He didn't recite news headlines. Rather, he opened his heart. looked around the circle, and said with emotion, I really don't know what to do. I am very frightened for my trans child. He described the pain of balancing his desire to be a public advocate with his child's desire to maintain a low profile. I was already touched by that act of vulnerability, but the people in the room responded with compassion and tenderness I never have imagined or dictated. When the father said, I know this isn't about me, someone else in the circle said, wait, it is about you. It's definitely about your child, but it's also about you and your feelings. It's okay to bring that here. Another person offered, my sister is trans, and I've had times of really worrying about her. She led a service here this summer, and it might offer you some encouragement. Another said, listen, I'm a teacher, and I work with the Queer and Ally Club at the high school in the next town over. I'd love to get together with you and listen to more of your story. Maybe I could help. It went on like that for quite some time. No one was trying to rescue or save anyone. They didn't jump into the problem solving. Rather, they responded to his open heart by opening theirs. That sacred gesture was replenished with a transformational potential. This is what shared ministry is all about. Not finding a technical fix for every challenge, but creating the conditions for genuine and sacred connections to be made. These days, it can be tempting to doubt whether congregational life makes a difference. Our showing up for one another in a spiritual community, day in and day out, week in and week out, might feel mundane, but sometimes it's the very thing that facilitates the breaking through of the spirit, love, or meaning. Yes. And it's now I am glad to welcome our speaker, as he's going to talk to us about the Ranbow chorus. It's come on up.
Thank you so much. Good morning, everyone, and happy Pride Sunday. I think I saw some of you all at the Pride Parade and the Pride Festival yesterday, so thank you so much for coming out and supporting everyone. And I know a couple of you went to our concerts this week on Wednesday and Thursday, so thank you so much. And my name is Beau McGregor, and I'm the co-founder and executive director of the Ranbow Chorus of Sioux Falls. I want to begin by thanking all of you at All Souls for inviting me here today. It is truly an honor to stand before a congregation that is committed to justice, inclusion, compassion, and making a positive difference in the community. Those values are deeply personal to me because they are values that have shaped my own journey. Whenever I'm asked to share my story, I always wonder where to begin. Like many people, my story is not a straight line because I'm not straight. Just kidding. It is filled with joy and heartbreak, successes and failures, moments of clarity and moments of confusion. It is a story about learning who I am, learning how to accept myself, and discovering that some things I once viewed as weaknesses become the very things that connected me to others. I grew up in a farm near Salem. It's about 30 miles west of here. It was a wonderful place to grow up in many ways. My dad was a farmer. My mom was my Catholic grade school principal. I am now a fallen Catholic, but a lapsed Catholic, as they say, but still believe in God and a good old higher power. But when I was growing up in Salem, I was surrounded by family, community, and people who cared about one another. Yet, as a young person, I felt very different. I couldn't quite explain it. I didn't have the language for it then. There wasn't education. You know, I'm a millennial, so there was a limited amount of, I had dial-up internet, so there wasn't much education or exposure to any of that. So I just knew that there was a part of me that I was afraid to show the world. And, you know, I was filled with anxiety, basically, but I couldn't name the anxiety because it was so unknown and foreign to me, because we didn't really talk about emotions in my household. But looking back now, I realize that much of my childhood was spent trying to outrun that reality. I became pretty much involved in everything. If my high school offered an activity, I probably signed up for it. I was in band, choir, student organizations, football, basketball, and countless other events. People probably thought I was ambitious or energetic, and maybe I was, but I also think I was trying to stay busy enough that I wouldn't have to sit alone with my own thoughts. I couldn't just relax and be. I had to just be involved in something to suppress those negative emotions that I was having. The truth was that I was carrying around a sadness that I didn't understand. I didn't know it was connected to my identity. I didn't know that it was connected to fear. I just knew that I felt disconnected from myself and from the other people around me. I was, masking being straight. I was a kid I had two older sisters, so I was meant to take over the farm. I had to pretend to like hunting and all those other things and really truly couldn't express who I was really. So the more I tried to hide that part of myself that loved like singing and musicals and dressing up, the heavier it became. I actually came out when I was 19 years old while attending college. It was really tough because it was my freshman year of college at SDSU, and I feel like God is really behind me sometimes because I was lucky enough my freshman year of college in those rooms in Pearson Hall. My roommate was actually gay and he was out. So like, I feel like my ancestors are looking out for me too. So it's just like, oh my gosh, because my coming out experience was really hard. I told my sister like in October, my freshman year, and then she told my parents. And then the next day, my dad and mom called me, took away my car, were really angry at me. And the whole town of Salem knew after that. And I was flooded with messages. And yeah, it was really tough. But I had that gay roommate who helped me through that. So I feel like God was looking out for me. People often describe coming out as a moment of liberation, and there is certainly some freedom in finally speaking that truth. But for me, it was also incredibly difficult, like I just said. Suddenly, the thing I had spent years hiding was out in the open, and everyone knew it. The thing I had spent years hiding, I had spent so much energy trying to avoid rejection that I wasn't prepared for the vulnerability that comes with authenticity. So as I entered into my 20s at SDSU, I struggled deeply with depression. At 22 years old, I was diagnosed with severe depression. Although in hindsight, I had been experiencing those symptoms for years in my childhood, but I just couldn't name it. Depression can be difficult because it can be difficult to describe because it is so much more than sadness. For me, it was like carrying around a voice that constantly whispered lies, just something I really couldn't name. It's just another voice in my head. My therapist always tells me, is that fact or fiction in your head, right? And mostly like I was making up fiction in my head. Reality is sometimes a story we tell ourselves, and the story I was telling myself as that time was a lie. It told me that I wasn't good enough. It told me that nobody cared. It told me that I would never be successful, never be loved, never be accepted. It convinced me that every mistake defined me and every setback was proof that I was failing. That voice actually became louder over time. It wrapped itself in anxiety and fear. It isolated me from the people who cared about me. It convinced me to stay home when I should have reached out. It convinced me that asking for help was a sign for weakness, and it kept me trapped inside my own thoughts. Like many people who are hurting, I looked for ways to numb the pain. Alcohol became my solution. Drugs became my solution. They seem to work at first. They're kind of fun when you first do it, as we all know. They quieted that voice for a while, that loud voice that was in my head, that sadness, anxiety, and that was whispering the lies. I tried to shut it out, basically. It provided like a temporary relief. But as many of us know, addiction has a way of demanding more and more while giving us less and less in return. During this time, I experienced multiple suicide attempts. That's not easy to talk about, but I think it's important to talk about because there are people sitting in our communities right now who are carrying the same pain and believing the same lives that I once believed. A lot of people in the LGBTQ plus community, the trans community, are experiencing this mental illness because there's hate in our national politics right now, and you talk about this at your church, and so people really, turn to alcohol and drugs because the world won't accept them, But today I call myself a survivor. I remember moments from those darkest periods of my life. I remember feeling hopeless. I remember feeling exhausted at fighting battles that nobody else could see. I remember believing that things would never get better. Yes, yet I also remember something else. So like during those suicide attempts, I remember seeing faces of my family in mind. I especially, my sisters I have nieces and nephews. They're in middle school and high school now. But I remember seeing their faces in my mind beforehand. And then I know that God was at my side then. And I knew that if I ended my life, I would never see them again. And then I remember another thought that has stayed with me over these years. I remember realizing that I would never hear music again. Music was so important to me. I used to, instead of helping my dad on the farm with chores, I would go to the shelter belt and sing to the cows. That was like kind of my thing. And just making up musicals and doing all that. I thought I was like Whoopi Goldberg and Sister Act, basically. Because I went to Catholic grade school and they would show Sister Act on VHS a lot. So even at my lowest point, music still reached a part of my heart that pain could not fully destroy. Today, I'm actually grateful to tell you that my story did not end there. This past March, I celebrated 5 years of sobriety. Recovery has been one of the greatest gifts of my life. It has not been easy, and it certainly has not been perfect. Recovery is not about becoming flawless. It's about being honest. I remember telling my mom what got me into rehab, and it was just being honest that like I have a problem. That's kind of the first step, right? And it was a domino effect from there. It's about becoming willing. It's about showing up every day and doing the work, even when you don't feel like it. Through my 12-step program, therapy, and the support of countless people who believed in me while I struggled to believe in myself, I slowly began rebuilding my life. I learned how to sit with difficult emotions instead of running away from them. I learned that vulnerability is not a weakness, and I learned that asking for help is actually an act of courage. Most importantly, I learned that healing happens in community. They always say that my 12-step program is not a me program, it's a we program. When I think about the people who saved my life, it wasn't like one dramatic moment. It was a collection of people who showed up, a sponsor who answered the phone, a therapist who listened, friends who checked in, family members who loved me. And I can now say today my mom and dad went to the Pride Parade yesterday. I was actually Grand Marshal, and they've been to all my concerts. I've had boyfriends over for holidays, so time heals everything, right? We just need the education and time to fully heal, and I totally forgive them for that. Community actually has become the antidote to isolation. That realization led me to co-found the Ranbow Chorus of Sioux Falls in 2023. I remember when I came out in that October, I was really sad in my freshman dorm room when my family rejected me, and I think YouTube was just starting, and for some reason, the Los Angeles Gay Men's Chorus, it was part of their It Gets Better campaign, was singing True Colors. And I was like, oh, I want something like that. I want to be a part of community like that. And for some reason, that was kind of like a file in my mind. And in 2023, that inspiration led me to co-found it as well. So the idea was simple. We wanted to create a place where LGBTQ plus individuals and allies could gather through music and find connection. We knew that there were queer people throughout the Sioux Empire looking for community. I feel like Sioux Falls is going through a cultural renaissance right now, and the Sioux Empire Sports Association was founded in 2019 with sports and bowling and softball for queer individuals in the Transformation Project and Sioux Falls Pride. So those organizations were all found kind of during the same time. So it was kind of just like, a spark that was just lighting after COVID, basically. And we also knew that, but there wasn't a chorus yet. yet. So we knew that there were people who actually wanted to sing. We knew that there were people who wanted to be seen and accepted exactly as they were. What we didn't know was just how much the community would embrace that vision. Our first rehearsal was filled with excitement and uncertainty. We weren't sure about how many people would come. You know, we created a Facebook page and had a sign-up sheet. We're like, hey, show up. You know, you're just kind of unsure with that. It's like throwing a boomerang into the wind. You don't know if it's going to come back, basically. We weren't sure what the future would look like, but people kept showing up, and more people showed up, and even more. Today, the Rainbow Chorus has become so much more than a choir. There's about 60 members right now. I think we started off with 30, and we're about 60 right now, which is great. But our mission is pretty simple. It's to build an inclusive community and advance LGBTQ plus activism, education, and personal growth through music. Yes, we perform concerts, and yes, we perform music, but the most meaningful things often happen between the songs. Friendships are formed, support systems are built, people find mentors, and people find confidence, and people find healing. I can imagine that happens here. I noticed before church that people were talking to each other, and you have fellowship afterwards. You know, you have your service, but most of that healing and spirit comes from the connections and conversations from people around us. You know, I've watched people walk through our doors carrying fear and uncertainty and slowly begin to discover that they belong. There's many members that, you know, came out while they're in the chorus, or they just came out and they went to the chorus to have that safe space. I have watched members find lifelong friendships. I have watched people become more confident in who they are. And I have watched our community come together to support one another during celebration and hardships alike. So we're like a little Rainbow Chorus family. What moves me most is that the Rainbow Chorus reflects a truth that I believe applies far beyond music. In a choir, every voice matters. Not because every voice sings the same note, but because every voice contributes something unique and diverse and inclusive. Sopranos, altos, tenors, and basses all have different roles. Harmony exists because of difference, not despite it. Imagine how different our world would be if we embraced that lesson more fully. What if we viewed our diversity not as something to tolerate, but as something to celebrate? What if we recognize that our communities become stronger when everyone is welcomed and valued? Everyone. What if every young LGBTQ plus person growing up in South Dakota knew that they were loved exactly as they were? That's what pride actually means to me. Pride is not about perfection. Pride is about refusing to be ashamed of who we are. It's about celebrating authenticity. It's about honoring those who came before us and fought for rights that many of us now enjoy. It is about creating a future where no one feels they must hide essential parts of themselves in order to belong. As I stand before you today, I feel a sense of gratitude. I am grateful for my recovery, and I'm grateful for my family and friends. I am grateful for the Rainbow Chorus and every member who has trusted us with their stories, and I'm grateful for communities like All Souls, this congregation, that continue to create spaces where people can be fully themselves. Most of all, I'm just grateful to still be here, right? I am grateful that I get to hear the music, that I get to sing, that I get to spend my life creating spaces where people can actually find belonging. The voice that once told me that I wasn't good enough was wrong. The voice that told me I had no future was wrong. The voice that told me I was alone was wrong. My hope for all of us this Pride Month is that we continue creating communities where every person knows they are worthy of love, worthy of dignity, and worthy of belonging. Thank you for listening. Thank you for the work you do for this community. And thank you for being part of a world where more people can live openly and joyfully. Happy Pride. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. That was inspirational. Oh, and I just want to say I am grateful that you're here. Yes, because you definitely helped make the world a better place. And as he said, it's about community, and this is our community. I think we've all found, we all taken very different routes to get here, and this is a special place. It's now this place does require some money, so we're going to take the collection and now to help pay our bills, and as always, half our collection we give away, and this week's collection is going into the Rainbow Chorus. Yes. Thank you. Let's say our words or receive the offering. We give these gifts freely. We receive these gifts gratefully. We dedicate these gifts to the work of our congregation, serving human wholeness, caring for our planet, upholding religious freedom, welcoming the stranger, and loving one another. Then for our closing song, it'll be 138, These Things Shall Be. Yes. And then our final reading is going to be 464. Yes. Love is not concerned. Love is not concerned with whom you pray or where you sleep the night you ran away from home. Love is concerned that the beating of your heart should kill no one. That's from Alice Walker. Yes. And then let's distinguish it is the chalice. The chalice is distinguished. Yes. We're going to have coffee and snacks downstairs, and more importantly, fellowship and community. We'll do that, and then about 11:20, we're going to meet back up here to have our circle time. Yes, and so please go enjoy each other. Thank you.